Welcome to Drams and Dragons, the show where we talk about really fucked up grimdark books.
Oof, right off the bat. Yep.
And this is no exception. I mean, we talk about some other stuff sometimes. The one book we're going to be talking about tonight is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik.
Yeah, it does seem like a theme for us, right? Kind of like fucked up books.
Right. It's this it's the first book in the Scholomance series. And I had to look up how to say Scholomance.
Is it actually Scholomance?
Yeah, it is. It's not Scholomance or any, it's Scholomance. It's like school, because it's the same root, So yeah, Scholomance. Before we talk about the book, we're going to drink a little bit. Why don't you introduce the drink, buddy?
Well, we're going in blind here. Today, we're doing the same tasting kit we did last time. So Gus and I have the same whiskey. Today, we will be tasting the 25-year-old Grace Isle.
I
don't know. It's
not spelled like Isla.
L-E.
Yeah, right. But it's got like an accent over the I for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's. I'll just say Grace Isla. I assume is kind of where they're going with that. I don't know.
Yes.
It's the Character of Isla Whiskey Company. Again, the same little vial or same little set of vials, right? All right.
Same deal. And that's about all I know about it. Like I said, I'm going into this blind.
Yeah, this will actually be the oldest whiskey I've tried.
Wow. No kidding.
The oldest one I had tried previously. Old whiskey's expensive. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, straight up.
The oldest whiskey I'd ever had before was 21. So I've had some that are around that age before, 21 or close. Never had a 25. So I'm looking forward to it.
And for my, I think the oldest I've had is 25, and anything over 20 years, I usually find to be like a challenging taste, because they're more complex. They've had time to draw more flavors out. So I'm cautiously optimistic here.
So we're gonna try this. Color on it is not much darker than the last one we had. It's still fairly light.
And that is surprising to me. Usually,
right.
Yeah.
Usually get those older whiskeys. They've been aged more. I mean, 25 years is, it has to be 25 years in a barrel, right, to call it that. So you would think that more would come out. They must not have been like a very dark or charred barrel or something. I don't know. I don't know how that happens, but it's fairly light colored. It comes in at 48% alcohol. Well, yeah. So let's open it up and pour. And again, I think you just turn and the wax seal will come undone here.
Yeah. In case you don't know, the tasting set, it looks like it's just wax covered, but it's very cleverly just a lid. It's a wax lid.
All right.
Yeah. Once again, 10 out of 10 for how cool this tasting set is. I love the little drams and the peat right off the nose. Ooh, so nice.
Oh, I like that peat. I'm also the other smell that just got me right away. The first thing I smelled was apples, and not like candied apple of like Irish whiskey, but like
spiced apples,
spiced apples. It's like peat and spiced apples. Now I'm getting a little almost herbaceousness from it, almost like a
herbaceous,
almost like a I don't know what was that. There was that one where it was like. They were like, it's field heather or something like that. I don't know. It's got that kind of herby quality to it.
Yeah. And this one also has, to me, this has kind of a oceany kind of vibe to me. What did we call it last time? A marine
vibe. Yeah, I agree. This has more of that to me. This feels very familiar. I feel like I've had this before, something similar to it.
Yeah. It's got lovely legs, very oily.
Yes, it does. Definitely. It has very nice ones. That nice legs, nice gams on that whiskey.
Nice gams.
Oh man. No, great. It's got great legs. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you see how there's parts of it that it's like so thick it doesn't want to go down. It kind of forms like little micro legs. Yeah.
Syrupy almost.
And that's what I'd expect from a 25-year-old because it loses water over time.
I really like how this smells. I gotta
It's
say.
lovely. Mm. Oh, going for the taste. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's good.
that's really good, dude.
Mm. Wow.
The smoke is intense. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it
start
is.
there. The smoke is really intense. This reminds me of Port Charlotte.
Yeah, with that intense mouthfeel.
It's really intense. This is more refined than the sort of younger one. The Port Charlotte 10 is the one you usually find around. This is like they took a Port Charlotte and aged it up a little bit.
Mm,
I don't know if that's what it is. It's all guess, but it's got
cool.
that. It's got those vibes for me. It's
Mm,
really nice. I like those that sort of maritime flavor, the salt, the brine. It's got
yeah.
that brine, that seaweed in it, seaweed sort of brine that it's got. Really nice.
Yeah. And I just can't get over the shape of the taste. That one of the weird ways I taste things is by shape.
Hmm.
And some things are pointed, some things have lots of little points, some things are rounded, some are
Yeah.
square. This one's like almost rectangular. It's a lot of flavor and kind of a like a smaller box for me. It hits your tongue and it just goes and it spreads out. And then the finish,
It's got just a
long.
hint
Mhm.
of that effervescence on the with the
Yeah.
peat. Just a little bit of it. I don't think this reminds me that much of the Kilchoman, but
It
it
sizzles a little bit when it gets in.
but exactly, just a little bit.
Yeah. Now, how's your brain processing the sweetness of it? I'm trying to.
I was literally just thinking about the sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sweet on the like initially,
Hmm.
you know, it's a lot less sweet when it gets further, in the back and the sort of finish, but that right away I get this hit of like almost syrupy honey sweetness.
Hmm.
I would say like more honey than caramel. That's
Hmm.
how I taste. That's how I'm getting it.
Sure. And now that I don't know, I just smell top. Like I smell the toffee
Mm.
now. I'm having a hard time tasting it.
Oh yeah, I
But
know. I
yeah.
smell. You mentioned toffee. I smell that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
Like
know
a
if I
burnt,
tasted
like,
it.
the burnt
Yeah, yeah,
caramel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That sort of
Mm.
darker. Yeah, that I got that.
Yeah. It's in the round. It's like a very round flavor. Kind of sneaks in there. Wow. There's so many things to catch on to already. I love this
Yeah,
whiskey.
yeah.
Every
It's
taste
really
you
good.
take, there's something new to
There's
look
some.
at,
Yeah,
focus on.
there's a spiciness to it on the palate that I'm trying to tease out.
Mm. Hmm.
And every whiskey has that a little bit of some kind of spice in there, right? Like it's very, at least the most of them do. A lot of them do. It sort of comes from the oak, and which obviously you have to age in oak. You have to. That's part of being whiskey, right? Um, but everyone has a little bit of a different take on it. I'm trying to figure out this one. It has just sort of a general spicing quality to it.
Hmm. Yeah. I'd say definitely not a Christmas. It's
No, no, no.
but yeah, I feel you. It's like trying to poke out. Yeah, it's funny. Every sip you take, you almost have to sip with intention to
Yeah.
taste
You're
one
trying
thing.
to yeah, you're trying to focus on that, like that one element. You take a really small sip and just try to focus on that one thing.
Yeah.
And then you take another sip, you try to focus on a different thing, different element.
Mhm.
And this does not have that tire fire. It's more the smoke
Yeah.
is, I would say, is a little more towards campfire than tire
Yeah.
fire, which is nice. I really like whiskeys that are like, campfirey,
Mhm.
where you get more of like wood smoky quality to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's also where that sort of heathery, herby field herb thing comes from too. So wherever they got their peat from, yeah, it's just a little different than the last one. And this also has a really long finish.
Yeah. I'm actually trying to
Um,
decide if I like the finish.
I definitely like the palate and the nose more than the finish,
Hmm.
but it's long and it just sort of, I'm trying to figure out the finish still, kind of.
And see, oddly, yeah, you mentioned rubber. I don't taste rubber in the when I taste it, but after it's been sitting in my mouth for a few, there's a bitter kind of rubbery higher quality that I'm getting from it. Not in a bad way,
Mhm.
but
I can see that. It's sort of at the very end is the finish is
yeah, and
kind
it's
of,
sort of toward the back of the tongue too.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's
hmm.
nice. I mean, it's the
Interesting.
whiskey overall is nice. It's an interesting whiskey. It's got, I remember the last whiskey that we had, the the previous one they did. They mentioned on that card mint, and I didn't pick up mint on that one, but I'm
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of picking up a minty quality. I think it's sort of related to that
Ooh.
effervescence and herbiness,
Mhm.
because I feel like I'm picking up on a minty quality in this one,
Interesting.
which is different. It's not common in Scotch, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a little different. Whatever they aged this in, and I don't know what it was. I don't really give you a lot of detail on these ones. They just kind of let the whiskey speak for itself. Yeah, that and the more I drink it too, the sweetness on the palate and on the nose come out. And it's very
Mhm.
much on my palate. It's really a honey sweetness. It's very sweet.
Yeah, and we talked about apples before. I withdraw my spiced apple. It almost tastes like apples like right before they go bad, like really ripe apples. That's the kind of
I'd
flavor
say
I'm
like
getting
the
from it.
stewed apples.
Yeah, like browned kind of.
Yeah, like stewed.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the honey sweetness. I think without that sweetness, it would be unbalanced.
Yeah, that bitter would shine through. Yeah, it does a great
Yeah, the
job balancing the
yeah,
bitter out. Mm.
it does with that. Yeah, it's quite nice. I don't love it, but it's a really interesting drink. I'm curious what they said about it. Do you mind if I turn the card over? Because like last time, it came with a card. All the whiskeys in this set come with cards. I've got it
Mhm.
right here,
Yeah,
so we
let's
can
do it.
we can see what they say. Oh, well,
I'm gonna.
the nose. Do you want to read here? I'll read the nose.
Sounds
Sea
good.
spray.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah, sea spray. I get that.
Huh.
Malty maturity. Get the malt. Hints of rubber with smoldering ash. I mean, we got I agree with you that there was some rubber on the back. I don't know if I got that on the nose.
Yeah,
I
I don't
didn't
know
think
if I
so. It
did
was
either.
more like, but there was smoke. Slight shellfish sweetness among, oh my God, among wild heather and oily oak.
Hey.
Yeah. And browning apples.
What?
Yeah. Browning
Yeah.
apples, nectarines, and lemon vanilla, butterscotch, which is close to toffee, crisp
Hmm.
bacon, and jasmine tea. I
Bacon.
can see the jasmine tea. I don't think the bacon. I didn't get the bacon. Let me smell that. I can see the
Now that
jasmine
you're
tea.
saying bacon,
Oh,
it's
okay. Yeah, yeah. Now
okay.
it's one of those
Yeah.
things. Once it's said, sometimes you get it. I get it now.
But tasting it in the moment like that, that's incredible.
Yeah, but we got like five of those.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
saying we're getting
impressive.
better. We're getting
We
better with our tasting notes
I think so,
and
man.
yeah, it's practice. The palate is over a note of firewood. Yeah, firewood. There's
Irish.
chewy vanilla, toffees,
Mm-hmm.
apricot jam, juicy wood spices, and a little dried barley. Elements of sour citrus and maritime salinity
Okay.
percolate among these flavors, while smoked almonds and grass clippings reside presently underneath. And
Weird.
the finish is swirling complexity. The finish leaves a juicy impression, an almost agricole esque note, which rises through the sweet smoke. Agricole, huh? Like agricole rum? Like
I've had agricole rum. I don't
I
like it.
could, I don't like it either. I could see that though. Yeah, that would sort of leave that dark, sort of bitter, like almost chemical
Hmm.
vibe. I don't like agricole rum, but yeah, I could
Mm-hmm.
see that.
Yeah, it rises up. Maybe
That's
that's a
it.
bitter.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way of describing it.
Cool.
Yeah, so I actually think we did pretty good.
Yeah,
We did pretty good with this, honestly.
it's
I
better than I thought, man. I thought the 25 was gonna kick our butts. With
Yeah,
the
I actually
flavor
think we
bomb.
did it better on the 25 than the 10. So
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
I really like how they used a general, what was it? Just wood spice. Maybe that's the
Mm-hmm.
way we should go with
Mm-hmm.
it. This is a general
Well,
wood
that's what I was like.
spice.
I was trying having a hard time trying to pick out the individual kind of oaky spice,
Yeah.
because some have a very clear, like, boom, it's cinnamon, boom,
Yep.
it's cloves or whatever. This
Yeah.
one it was just wood spice. It was sort of muddled spices, and I was having trouble identifying. If you remember, uh, which which sort of spice to pick out. Well, they couldn't either. They just say wood spice because it's just that's what it is.
Yep.
So I don't feel bad for not being able to pick that out because they didn't. They just said wood spice. All right.
So it's always good to be kind to yourself when
Yep.
tasting whiskey. Um,
Yep.
any want to do an over under on what the cost of a bottle of this whiskey is?
Oh man, I probably should have looked that up.
I got it right here. Let's see.
Yeah.
Guess
Well,
what's your
I'm gonna say it's over $300.
ooh, and under
Where
how
are we at?
much? Well, with
Under four. I
okay,
think it's
yeah,
between $300 and $400.
yeah, you nailed it. It's 316.91.
That's where you can expect. That's just where you can expect to find 25-year-old whiskeys that don't suck, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, it could have been a lot more. There's some 25-year-old whiskeys that are a heck of a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true. That's definitely on the upper end though. And if we're going into recommendations and stuff, this this gets in that for me purely in the gifting category where I got it for a gift, I'd be thrilled. I
mhm,
probably never shell out the clams to get it though.
mhm.
I'm very happy that I got to try it. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a lot of cash. I know I can spend $100 and get whiskey that I probably would enjoy more, and the price wouldn't scare me off of it. I use my
yeah,
Lagavulin as my constant. Pick one up for $100 and be so happy with it.
yeah. I think the thing is like if you're spending, it's all about value, right? Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
spending $300 on like a well-aged bottle of whiskey, you can get better, I think. Yeah.
And yeah,
It's not
yeah,
bad. I'm glad I got to try it. It's very tasty.
yeah. The taste to price ratio is a bit off, though. I'd say.
Well, let's transition now over to A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik.
Let's do it. This book, man, hard for me
This
to get
book,
into. It was so just brutal, man, and everything's trying to kill everybody. Oh, but sorry, you go
yeah,
ahead. I'm jumping the
yeah,
gun here.
man. Well, no, that's fine. Basically, if you want to think about it this way, it's a take on the sort of idea of like a Lovecraftian
Yeah.
uh kind of horror grimdark Harry Potter. It follows a girl named Galadriel, uh named that by her nerdy mother. It's a modern day thing, right? So she's named that by her nerdy mother, and she's a wizard, and she's sent to this wizard school that's like in a pocket dimension. They can't leave the school until they graduate. Uh, Unfortunately, there's all these mals. Mals are these magical monsters that are out to kill wizards. They're out to gobble them up, right? And they come through into the school, and they're in the regular like real world too, right? And they're a huge problem. It's like the whole world of wizards is trying to solve this problem essentially, or at least maybe not solve it, but at least like forestall the deaths of everyone who uses magic, right? And so all the kids are sent to this school in this pocket dimension, and these mals are coming in and harming the children, trying to kill the children and
Definitely
teenagers,
succeeding.
really, and
Yeah.
succeeding on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
And the other main character in this book, other than Galadriel, I mean, there's a bunch of major characters and side characters, but the other major character in this book is uh,
Orion.
one of the other students, yeah, named Orion, who is basically like the perfect Mal Slayer, the perfect monster slayer. And she starts the book just hating the guy. Basically, she doesn't like her life being saved. She doesn't like owing other people.
No,
And
she's
he
like an
keeps and
angry
he,
cat. Just
yeah, right.
yeah,
She's like, yeah, the most angsty teenager you can imagine.
so angsty.
And Orion saves her life repeatedly, and so she just hates it. She hates him.
Or
He's
does
too
he?
perfect.
Mhm. She
Yeah,
would have you believe he's just poking his head in when he doesn't where it doesn't belong.
Yeah. The
So it's
reality
got
is
that vibe.
he's
Yeah.
like saving her life. He actually genuinely has saved her life repeatedly. She would be dead. She just doesn't like that, right? So
Yeah.
it's a funny setup. It's a really like kind of fucked up setup. But it's a really fun book. So yeah, Dustin, as a relatively recent reader of it,
Mm,
uh, what'd you think?
I had a bit of a roller coaster. It feels a little bit like young adult at times. That's kind of a, it's not really true. There's weight, there's just, I, when you read the book, there's a vibe to it. This is a vibe book. And that was kind of my big takeaway from this book. This author is really good at putting that vibe into the reader. Where you're
Mhm.
just like, everything can kill you. People die all the time. Uh, there's a lot of mystery to it. But I felt I had a real busy couple weeks these last 2 weeks, and it was a little difficult for me to read because of that. I already had so much going on, and I was traveling cross country with a 6 year old to visit grandparents by myself.
Yeah.
So it was one of those. I was already kind of like looking out for things to happen, taking care of my charge and making
Mm,
sure this and that. And so reading it added more of that to my
yeah.
life.
Well,
So,
the hoops she has to jump through
oh
every
man,
moment of every day in order to not get killed by mouths.
they can't even eat lunch, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't eat lunch, can't brush your teeth.
Yeah. They're like looking for mouths to come out of the shower drain,
Yeah.
right? Like, or the shower head. Yeah. It's constant. It's never ending, right?
Never ending.
Just like parenthood.
Yes. So that was my big takeaway from the book was this author is really great at communicating vibes, and I really appreciate that. And I like your Lovecraftian label because that's it's very Lovecraft. It's very like there's things in the dark with tentacles that are unknowable and unseeable. There's mystery and there's horror to it.
Mhm.
And I do love me some horror. It just took a bit to get into it. Um, how was it? How was it for you when you first started reading it? Did you have anything like that going on?
When I started reading it, it hooked me. It was one of those books with like a really strong hook.
Yeah, it's got a
And those
great.
hooks got deep. And like I bought the book on the recommendation of somebody and actually on the recommendation of a family member. She was like, "This is a really good book. I think you'd like it." I picked it up just on that purely on that recommendation and read it. And before I was done, I had already like ordered the next two books online. Yeah, I thought you're right about the vibe. Like that's a big piece of the book. There are puzzle pieces to it too, like the mystery that it has,
Mhm.
you know, is real. There are real tangible mysteries that are constructed that have answers as the series goes. So it's something where like it might feel like all vibe right now.
Uh,
And and there is a lot of that, but there are things that are uncovered as the series goes and things that will be answered. What that right now they're just like that's like super fucked up. Why does it work that way? That's weird. Like, I wonder.
mhm.
Like she's like setting these hooks, right? And now she's gonna start like reeling you in a little bit. And it's
Nice.
this first book is heavy on vibe and voice.
Mhm.
The main character has a really unique voice. We talked about voice. What which book was it? It was a couple of books ago. We talked about like
Mhm.
certain authors have certain talents,
Mhm.
and Naomi Novik's one of her talents is voice. She has a really strong, clear voice for her main characters, or
Yeah.
whoever her narrator protagonist is.
Mhm.
I got that in Temeraire. I get that in this. Uh, it's a really, really important skill. I think it was Christopher Buhlman we were talking about that with.
Yeah.
And voice is just super important. It's one of the most important things that a writer can do, and she's got that. To me, I thought Galadriel. It's from Galadriel's perspective. She's narrating.
Mm.
She's explaining everything from her understanding, sort of that, first person limited kind of
Yeah.
Perspective. Yeah, and Galadriel's character just has a wonderful, unique voice. I mean, it's like a totally angsty, kind of fucked up character, but it, not that she's a horrible person or fucked up, but like terrible things. She's traumatized, right? Terrible things have kind of been done to her.
Yeah.
And that all comes through really strongly. We talked about this with Joe Abercrombie, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 acts.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is act 1.
Oh, okay.
There's 2 more to come.
Cool.
I know that like a lot of the time that first book is like it's kind of, but in that trilogy format where it's each book is an act, it works.
Gotcha.
Um
Yeah, and it has that vibe too. Like, yeah, the hooks are in me too. Like, I want to know. I want to know what's going on. And I think for me as a new reader of it, I had to convince myself that it wasn't young adult. And then I had to stop comparing it to Dresden Files, which has a similar vibe.
Yeah, no, I got you there. Yeah. It's
Totally
a
different.
little different, but yeah.
But yeah, you're right, man. The voice is so cool because it takes you in and you're just in her head and she's living in it. She's surviving. And she has done what teenagers do. She's a resilient young lady and she just deals with it. Like, oh, she almost got killed a couple minutes ago. Big deal. What I really like too, I thought it was interesting. I like the whole setup of her being a Maleficer. And
well, she's not, but people
well,
think she is, right?
yeah,
like everybody thinks she is.
right.
And just to a Maleficer or Maleficer, whatever how you say it, that is a wizard who steals the life force of other wizards, of other, to cast their magic, right? As opposed to generating it, your magical force, your mana correctly or in the right way, in a way that doesn't harm anybody, right?
Doing push-ups on the floor, I guess. That's
Yeah.
how she does it.
Yeah. Hey, you have to do something difficult to generate your mana.
Yeah.
Basically.
So there's that whole thing, and she can kind of point them out, which I really like. Like her character is cool. She kind of sees through things. I love that the school keeps trying to feed her these destructive, like apocalypse spells.
Oh yeah.
To destroy the world. And that was a question I had for you. Like, because you know more about the arc of it. Do we get more info about the school and why it does what it does?
So much.
Cool. I was really hoping so.
Yes. So it's one of the big things is like, why does the school in this first book is like, why does the school seem to have, consciousness? What is its motive? Like, what is it doing? Why is it doing it? Why is it built that way? Why does it do these things? And there are answers. They come in later books. The Scholomance is a character in this book. It is a character of its own. It's this big, complex, magical like organism that they're all learning to be wizards inside of. I know that like Hogwarts in Harry Potter, just to compare it to that, because it's an obvious comparison, right? Hogwarts kind of has some of that at times, like with the Room of Requirement and some other things. In this, it sort of has that, but like almost another level, right?
Yeah. There's purpose. There's like a purpose to it.
There's definitely a purpose. It is built with a purpose.
See, look at all this mystery. Huh? Yeah, it's one of those too where you like if you don't know the arc, I found myself waking up at night kind of thinking about it, or I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, is it possible they're just in a like a simulation or something like that? Did the kids really die? Like things like that start going through your head. And I read a lot of sci-fi, and that stuff comes up for me a lot in this book, thinking about the purpose, because it comes across like a training program, like a crucible. And why would these powerful wizards send their children to die in a place where they could literally, early on in the book, there's a scene where a kid picks up a lunch tray and a tentacle just kind of happens to come up out and it's a Mal and it goes, and then he dies. Like, why would you send your kid to a place where they could die from a food tray tentacle monster?
Yeah. And I mean, the reason is that on the outside, it's worse, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, the series gets way into that stuff. Yeah, it answers pretty much all those big questions. I think it's telling of the quality of the writing in the book, just of Novik's writing, that you're like waking up thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right. it's one of those series where you can't turn your brain off about it,
Yeah, for
which
better or
is
for worse.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah, for better or for worse, right? But that's special. There's not that many series that I've read where that's the case. But for me, it was like I had to know. I had to get the next two books. And it was entertaining too. It's not like it's just a boring,
No,
you know,
it's very
it's not
funny.
it's a funny book or funny series. It's funny, yeah, funny writing, entertaining, there's action, there's action, there's romance,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
romance. Yeah,
there's a little romance. There's
that's what worried me about the YA angle a little bit because I like you can
yeah.
call it right off the bat, like, oh, here's Orion, he's the love interest. Look how
Yeah.
opposite they are.
Yeah.
But it manages to be very entertaining because she's very much not the romance type. And
Yes. Yeah. Well,
but
and
yeah,
like you say it's got that YA angle, and I agree in form. It's sort of one of those things where like in form,
and yeah, exactly.
in yes, it's a YA
But in
format,
reality, it's not.
but yeah,
Yeah,
in substance, it is very much a grown up book. So it's sort of
yeah,
it's this interesting sort of twist on this formula, right? Uh,
yeah.
which is nice.
And I don't say that to disparage YA. There's some amazing YA out there, but there's also some very formulaic kind of YA. It's books for people who've never read books before, basically,
Yeah, right.
and don't know the tropes.
Yeah.
And so they're surprised by things. And yeah, this isn't that. This is yeah, like you said, it's got a little bit of the form. None of the content though. The content is deliciously evil and dark and the stuff that
Yeah.
we're used to on our podcast here.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like I've seen people. Do you think that this is grimdark? Because I've seen people argue about this online in like forums and stuff.
I'd say it is.
Yeah,
By our definitions of grimdark, the most important element is kind of like laughing in the face of doom and despair, and also not shying away from dark things and metal, like metal. That's metal, bro. Like if you got to say that a few times through the book, so I think it qualifies. At least that's my opinion on it. I think there's a spectrum of grimdark, and I do think it's on the spectrum a little bit. What do you
yeah.
think?
I think it's borderline. It definitely has like that bleak world. I think I don't know if I'd call them anti-heroes. They are
Right.
very heroic in some sense. They're fairly heroic. They have a lot of the traits of sort of heroic characters. It's a bleak world though. It's pretty bleak. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
I'd want to
like,
see Orion fail more, I think, to make it more grimdark. I want to see them
yeah.
kind of grind their foot in like what we expect to, good things to happen.
Yeah. I think it's not quite grimdark for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really close.
It's cool. It's like it's always right there. It's the easy path. It's you could just
Mhm.
draw power out of the living.
Yeah.
Always fighting that. She'd rather sit and do 20 push-ups to cast a
Or
spell
100 push-ups. Yeah.
or 100 push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'd rather do that. So yeah, and they're always striving. So yeah, I'd say it's like grimdark adjacent, or it's got elements of it, or maybe it's on the spectrum.
Say it's dark, but maybe not grimdark. I don't know.
Grim darkish, grimish.
Grimdark adjacent.
In the eye of the beholder. It's like whiskey, man. I think it's who you talk to. But I'm impressed. We talked about voice and all the stuff that's good for authors. I think it's also a rare gift to be able to have a regular length novel and have it tight and still
Yeah.
filled in. I don't feel like it was cut to pieces by an editor or anything. Like it's still full. And it's very satisfying. So yeah, it's got so much going for it. I know it's a huge recommend for me. I would say I would warn people that if your life is hectic at the moment, maybe take it easy on the book because the vibe is for real. And I don't know. I've told you before. I'm one of those people. If I'm feeling a certain way, it's hard for me to read a book that amplifies that. So I got to be careful with what I read. I'm sure a lot of people are like that too. But
Yeah.
yeah, this book's doing it for me, man. I can't wait to read the trilogy.
People listeners will sort of know what I'm gonna say. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. I'm the one that wanted to chat about it, just like you were the one that wanted to chat about, the first law in Dungeon Crawler Carl.
One other thing I did want to say, like, there are, and I don't want to throw shade at anybody specifically, but when you draw a female character, when you write for female character?
Throw shade.
All right.
I can edit it out if you need me to.
A little bit of shade. There are certain authors who's, I mean, they write for women and they do a wonderful job, but there's something in the voicing, there's something in the details that it's like sometimes you can feel it. Like you're a dude kind of drawing what you think it'd be like to be in like a 13-year-old girl's head, and you're like a 45-year-old dude from wherever.
Yeah.
And that's something I appreciate, man. I actually really like. There's a lot of women authors who are writing some amazing books, and I think it's actually really cool reading the perspectives of like female protagonists they just have like an authentic flair to them
Mm-hmm.
that I really appreciate. So I think that's an extra bonus for this book. Like it's an opportunity if you read because you like to get out of your own head and experience other perspectives, the way that she thinks, the way that she looks at the world, the way that she sees the male protagonist, there's an authenticity to it. That's because he's always coming in. He's so I gotta save the day. It's just like I don't want to be saved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to kiss me. You know,
Yeah.
it's just leave me alone. And yeah, it's I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up, the writing the other gender there.
Mm.
Because I actually feel like Novik's like biggest weakness is
Uh,
actually her writing of men, basically. Where
yeah.
she doesn't write men like in terms of how we think or how we act. Like she always has more complexity than is really there. Like I
Yes.
don't know, they like women out there, women writers, we're real simple. Most of us. Like I'm sorry to say, like even the most complex man is like our inner life is like much simpler. Uh
It's so true,
that
man.
I think that women writers don't really get like they dumb it down. It's not enough. Dumb it further. All right.
Yes. I really
Um
feel that. Yeah, one of my favorite things to do with my wife, we'll be sitting there and she'll I'm always amazed at how she thinks about things. She's got like an inner monologue and she's planning months in advance. And sometimes she'll ask me, she said, Dustin, what are you thinking about? And I'll say, literally, it's like static in my head. I'm thinking of nothing. Or maybe I'm
yeah.
thinking of why Gandalf, like how long was Gandalf actually gone in the realm?
But it's like those memes where like I wonder what he's thinking about. Yeah. And it's just like thinking
Uh,
about something really dumb. Like,
mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
yeah. And
Like for
I
real,
feel
dude.
like she
Yeah.
falls into that trap sometimes. I feel
Uh-huh.
like men don't think
Yeah.
about like that complexity about the things that she like, men are just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're thinking about something random and stupid. Like it's most of the time anyway. Like it's
Yeah. Or like very confident that something will happen. So we don't put any thought into it. That's another thing I think would be more
yeah.
accurate.
Yes.
Oh man. But yeah, that's funny how there's kind of a and maybe that's why you see some of these teams sometimes. That might be something fun to cover in a future episode, like one of these like husband and wife teams that write or writing teams. I don't think we've had anybody that's had a writing team yet.
I mean, I feel a little bit this is the first woman writer that we've talked about, right? I
Um,
feel yeah, it is. I feel like it's a little bit like we've been a little bit neglectful because there's some amazing
mhm.
women authors out there. Some of my favorites, like
Not a lot of
I
grim
mean,
dark though.
and yeah, well, N.K. Jameson, definitely some grimdark there.
Oh
She's
man,
fantastic. God, I love the Broken Earth
I couldn't
trilogy.
finish
We should
that.
talk about that.
I should try again,
Really? Oh man.
dude. It was depressing. It was too depressing.
Okay, it is depressing, but it's also wonderful. I like depressing books because I feel like I can connect with them because they're more like I feel like real like okay, this person is like the writer has like seen what we're all going through and
Yeah,
like life is kind of I mean like I'm not like depressed in like a clinical sense, but like I'm kind of cynical, right? Like so like I see things happening in the world and I have this sort of cynical view about them a lot of the time. I mean, my although sometimes I consider it, I'm like, I'm not cynical. I'm just a realist. You know what I mean? Like, but I like books that connect with reality. I think fantasy, and where they could at least connect with sort of real emotions, where I can kind of like, fantasy does this it is really good at a few things as a genre. One of those is recontextualizing hard things.
Yeah.
And I feel like Grimdark is especially good at that in some sense. Obviously there's, you can also have fantasy that is inspiring or is entertaining and just like, but the thing that there's a lot of genres that can do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy is better than any other genre at recontextualizing real world things. A lot of authors do it, and it might be recontextualizing difficult emotions to deal with, or historical things, or real world problems, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And fantasy is fantastic. You're basically lifting this problem out of the real world, plopping it into this fake world, and talking about it sans real world baggage.
Yeah, it gives you a little distance from it, so it helps you
exactly
process it a little bit.
Yeah. And so I feel like books like this that are really dark, they deal with things that are sometimes hard to talk about in real world context, and they can help you sort of deal with them and process them and think about them sans real world baggage.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it. And I really like, so I tend to gravitate as a result towards darker, grimmer things.
Gotcha.
Personally.
Well, I mean, I remember back in college, we got all into, there was like the zombie movies were big when we were in college.
Yeah,
like
they were
apocalyptic kind of end of the world type stuff. There's definitely an appeal there.
Well, we went back and watched, I don't remember this. We went back and watched all of the old Romero ones, like
Night
of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead,
the
original stuff, like back from back in the day. Yeah.
Proper slow zombies, none of this running zombie business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Slow zombies for life.
I think it's because her writing is so visceral, and she goes into people's heads. Like the feeling of desolation is there, and that's what grinds me down. That's too close to like The Road for me, where it's just desolate, hopeless, a bunch of people starving and there's no hope of a future kind of thing. That, I don't know, makes me sad.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm just trying to read on my Saturday, be reading about these people.
No, I hear that. But it's sort of these two different ways you can kind of like take in, books or fantasy or whatever. And it's,
yeah. Right on, man. Well, yeah, this is this one hits a nice spot. I know since I got home and I'm no longer soloing with my 6-year-old, it's been much easier to take in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna, they're all in the library now too, man. So I'm just renting my books, supporting my local library.
Yeah,
that's the way. Great.
That's the way. I mean, I bought mine because I was like, fuck that. I don't want to wait. Plus, I mean, I as an aspiring writer, I'm like, fuck it, we should buy more books. So I'm like, I'll buy them if I can afford them, I'll buy them. You know what I mean? But this, the library's fantastic too. We should support our libraries.
Yeah.
More books, more better.
There's so many. And yeah, if you don't, I know but Libby is just amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not supposed to happen, but I still rent books from the Washington libraries. And I don't live in Washington. Don't tell anybody.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah. Well, man, I feel pretty complete. I think we nailed the book. So recommend from both of us.
Well, thank you all for joining us on this lovely evening or morning or whatever the hell it is where you are. And we really appreciate that you have listened, and we hope you'll listen next time when we talk about something else. I don't know what we'll talk about next. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
It'll be fun and slightly rambly, but also informative and and entertaining.
All right. Have a good night.
Should I say stay gold?
I don't know.
Past the stopping point.
No.
Let's keep it in. Stay gold, everybody. I'm gonna keep saying it until it clicks.
It just ends up being an awkward outro every time, just like
Every
this.
time. This is what they
Every
want.
time. I
I don't
don't
know.
know
I don't
how
know
to
what
do an outro.